Hey, this is Nemeroff, and I just want to say what I always say. Welcome to ShowbizMonkeys.com.
Around this town,
I'm alright.
around this town,
I'm alright. I mean, no consequence when you playing with the fire. Move to the
I know you've been to Winnipeg before. You're here for Oddblock.
Mm-hmm.
What are you expecting to be different about this experience this time?
I feel like the TV taping part of it will be, I feel like I have to wear a suit compared to Oddblock.
Uh-huh.
But I, expect like the crowd. My experience in Winnipeg is always that whole weekend or week at Oddblock was amazing. All the shows and all the comedy fans were like so into the comedy. So I assume it's the same for the festival and stuff. So it happens every year. That's why it's one of the best ones in Canada. I'm not sure what to expect aside from just having a great time.
The gala itself, square pegs.
Mm-hmm.
I guess people that don't necessarily fit in, or certainly comedically aren't the same type of comedy that you might see day to day. Can you talk a little bit about crafting your set for that? If it kind of fit your style already, so you didn't have to do much specifically for it, or just putting together what you're going to do at the fest.
Yeah, I think I was so excited to see that as a theme this year, because I do think that the way I like to do comedy is never very thematic. So not about necessarily romance or first impressions or what the galas are normally based around. And I like the freedom of square pegs, because you just get to sort of do the comedy that you want to do. And I think just crafting my set was mostly just taking my best 10 minutes of jokes that I'm excited to do for an audience. So it was a very easy process to craft it, because it was just, again, fitting the mold of square pegs was just sort of stuff that's left at center, and that's the kind of comedy I love.
Can you talk a little bit about the other comics on the gala? I know there's some other Toronto comics that I'm sure you've worked with a lot, and then it's being hosted by Kevin McDonald of Kids in the Hall fame, which I'm guessing, knowing the type of comedy that you perform, you probably are familiar with him and Kids in the Hall.
Yeah, it's truly crazy to be, on a show hosted by him, and the fact that he'll say my name and everything is wild and exciting. And then the other comics, the ones that I'm familiar with, are Todd Graham and Charles Haycock and Maria Stoich, and those are all people I truly love to watch and think are some of the funniest comics in Canada. So I'm totally excited to actually be able to hang out with them, and then also do a show where people are coming on purpose to see this kind of comedy too. I think we all vibe very similarly and sort of have similar sensibilities. So I think it's just going to be a very exciting time to all get to hang out and do an amazing show.
This is obviously a TV taping for CBC, but you're no stranger to TV. You did Conan last year. Can you talk a little bit about the experience of getting to do a show like that, and just the whole experience of being on probably the top show for comedians right now?
Yeah, that whole experience was literally dream come true. Something I never thought would actually happen, and felt even while it was happening, and I shook Conan's hand. In my head, I was like, this guy looked a lot like Conan. There was no moment where it really it didn't feel real almost at all.
Uh-huh.
And then looking back on it now, it's just feel very lucky and very happy that I had that experience and get to say that I got to do Conan. And again, hearing him say my name is such a crazy dream. Mm-hmm. That again, you never really think is going to happen. But that whole experience was amazing. Yeah, it was the whole day was probably 6 to 7 hours, and then in my mind it felt 30 seconds.
Yeah,
and it's all sort of a blur.
Were you happy with the end result once it aired?
Yeah, I always, I think in that kind of scenario, I wanted it to be the most amazing set of my life and stuff, but it was something that was impossible to really prepare for, because just going out to a studio audience in the middle of the day, and then Conan's right there, and then he says your name, and it was all I was just like more nervous than anything, and like just trying to keep my bearings, which I think I'm happy with how it turned out. But I just think it was also something that I couldn't have. You just can't be ready for it until you do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, as an audience member who watched that night, I certainly thought it was an awesome set. So,
Thank you.
I believe you've made the move down there, haven't you?
Yeah, last month I moved down to LA.
So how's it been working the LA scene, getting on shows there? I know there's a big alt scene there, which is probably up your alley. But have you had a good experience so far getting on shows and getting out there?
Yeah. People are very, very supportive, and there is like a big Canadian contingency down here, so that always is nice. And it's just like the amount of shows, the amount of opportunities is like tenfold from what it was back in Toronto. But that's amazing, because then also like makes it kind of harder to get established. So I'm just trying to focus on booking shows and doing mics and going out and hanging out at shows that I like the comics on and stuff. Sort of building those relationships.
Are you spending your time like back and forth between Canada and LA, just because obviously you've done more in Toronto and around Canada, so there's probably more opportunities for some of the bigger shows up here still?
Yeah, I mean, it's that classic thing of when you leave Canada, that's kind of when you're more desirable to Canadians. Yeah. So it is that funny thing that I've already experienced, even only being away a month. But I think mostly I'm going to live out here, and I would love to come back and forth as much as possible, but I think also keeping as much of a presence down here is kind of important, because if you leave and you just don't make a noise, you don't make noise for a while, you kind of get forgotten.
Where do you see yourself headed in the next couple of years? Not just with your career, obviously you want to continue to do more shows and get larger opportunities and that kind of thing, but just with the style of your comedy itself and how you think it might grow over the next little while.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that. I would like to kind of craft a perfect 45 minute to an hour like headlining set that I could take around everywhere. I would love to go back to Australia, do like the comedy festivals out there, and then hopefully put out an album in the next few years too. And I just don't want to ever stop doing comedy. So I think I learn something every time I go out. So I don't know how to predict my future material or anything like that, but I like poking fun also at like the stereotypes in comedy and the established like norms of it, which the more people how big comedy has gotten over the past 10 years or whatever, like I think comedy audiences are even more into that than they were before. Mm-hmm.
And where can people find you on social media? I'll say that you're, a very funny person to follow on social media, because you're not just, straight ahead promoting things just as they are, but you offer your own unique style to it. So where are all the places people can find you?
Just Instagram at Nemeroff and Twitter at Nemeroff. And then I have a YouTube page, which is a very, very long, complicated URL. But if you just search Nick Nemeroff, it should come up.
ShowbizMonkeys.com